It is the 31st of the 5th, 2025. The time is 13 minutes past 10. Three topics on the docket this morning as far as all things F1 centric threads need to pull. We'll talk about Lewis Hamilton because he's come out and said some things that I think are worthy of mention, particularly if we're playing balanced games. So too, we'll talk about Christian Horner, his comments on Yuki Tsunoda and what that might mean for the Japanese going forward, his tenure at the Racing Bulls and Bulls that are red proper. So too, we'll talk about FP2. We'll talk about who's going to be quickest because there's been a lot of consternation, a lot of debate and a lot of conjecture as to whether Maximilian Verstappen can pull this one round. Never bet against Maximilian Verstappen, hey, but I digress. Go on then, let's talk about this. Sir Lewis Hamilton, a lot of Sir Lewis Hamilton fans, stands and extremists have rallied against your boy. How very dare you talk about Sir Lewis Hamilton? Don't you dare take the Lord's name in vain. That's what they will say. And again, we will never ever on this channel sacrifice truth, value nor objectivity at the altar of any cognitive dissonance worthy of the moniker. But maybe sometimes I am a bit harsh on Sir Lewis of late because his performance has been dour. I'm not used to this. I feel like a Manchester United fan that lived through the Sir Alex Ferguson era and is now having to deal with the failure, the underperformance in extremis of Ruben Amorim, David Moyes, your Jose Mourinho's and your Louis van Gaals. Do you know what I mean? It's difficult for me and I make no apology for that, particularly if you're looking to pay proper homage to who Sir Lewis Hamilton was, not just as a man, but as a driver, for Pete's sake. 2008 Silverstone. That dude's given me some of my greatest, most glowing memories in F1 history. So how very dare you extend Sir Lewis Hamilton now in 2025 at the age of 40-year-old grace? What? Why does Sir Lewis... If, and again we have the conversation under this premise, if Sir Lewis Hamilton is who we think he is still the fire-breathing F1 peddler of a dragon, then what's this about extend grace? And again, I would argue that those two things can't exist in the same space. They aren't cozy bedfellows. However, let me say this about Sir Lewis. I remember the 2010 to 2014, where British media especially wasn't too kind on Sir Lewis, particularly around their language. This is a brilliant example of it. And again, this is an article in the Express written by Archie Griggs, the headline of which says Lewis Hamilton brutally put in his place as Fernando Alonso caught in the crossfire. Put in what place, Archie? What are you talking about here? That's not fair. I don't think that's cricket either. What do you mean put in his place? As if he's been acting out of character, as if he's outstayed or been behaving above his station. I think that's out of order. Then we see this from Fernando upon Alonso, and this is where it gets a bit techie because Fernando's never liked Sir Lewis. But listen to how the journos, the broadcasters and commentators calling the instance react.
I'm sure if there's going to be a big lunch, it's going to be him trying to start to fly back, is it?
We have the heat of the day in front of us.
Yeah, that's better, isn't it?
Yeah, the good thing is that the weekend is very long. Even the championship is very long.
Classic Fernando.
Well, hang on, Fernando. Okay, so it's just Fernando, right? Being Fernando. We have the hero of the day because, of course, Lewis Hamilton didn't bow down to Fernando. He wouldn't get out of his way in FP2, and I don't hate it. However, this is what's most concerning. I'm not having a conversation under the umbrella heading of how brilliant Lewis Hamilton is as a man, how beautiful his drip is, how good looking he is, how he's blazing a trail at the Met Gala. All of that stuff for me as an F1 fan fades to black. I don't care. Couldn't care, has always been out of scope. We have this conversation, for me, under the umbrella heading of performance in an F1 car. That's all that I've ever cared about as far as Sir Lewis Hamilton's concerned. The pictures, the photos, the profile. I'm not a businessman. I'm a business, man. Yeah, that's all well and good. There is a portion of the fan base who live and breathe for that. But I've always been here for Sir Lewis Hamilton, the fire-breathing dragon of an F1 peddler. That's what I lived through. And this is what's so concerning. Again, we're having a conversation about variances, year on year differences. Now, you could say that against George Russell, his qualifying pace has never been great. Struggled to get to grips with the ground effect car because it's techier than techie things, right? You got to look after the tyres, and sector 3 is that's where all of Lewis Hamilton's mistakes have come from over the past 12, 24 months. And then you get the commentary. Some of the quotes from Lewis last year were to the effect of, I will not out-qualify George Russell. Was he alluding then to sabotage? Was he alluding then to the 0.2, the 10th or 2 that so many F1 aficionados say that you lose as you get into the dying embers of your career? Was that it? It's hard to say for sure. Then Lewis Hamilton gives us this quote overnight, reacting when questioned about his inability season to date to pull it together in qualifying, in stark contrast to his race pace. Here's what he said.
Qualifying, how do you put everything together in one lap to take pole position?
I don't know, I haven't done it in a long time. So, this is the truth. I haven't done it for so long, so I'm trying to figure that out myself.
Qualifying.
Okay, I laugh. I don't mind. I enjoy when Lewis is happy, when he's chewing his food as far as F1's concerned before he swallows, but it concerns me on a couple different fronts. In the first instance, so Lewis Hamilton, say of 2007, if he were being roundly out qualified by any teammate, doesn't matter if it's Charles Leclerc or George Russell in prior years, so Lewis Hamilton would not be having that. That's who I know that chap to be. Ultra competitive. Do you know what I mean? Looking to solve for it in his own mind, at least the quickest, if not everybody else's, the quickest F1 driver that there has ever been. And so why is he being out qualified? He wouldn't react with smiles and laughter back in the day. And that smacks of contentment to me. A realization that this is just where we are. And that is concerning as a Sir Lewis Hamilton fan. I've got to be honest. I don't think I've heard Lewis Hamilton react. Even last year, when he said things like that, you could see the steel and fire in his eye. George might be looking to out-qualify me, alluding, therefore, to sabotage. Something else is going on, because the explanation for this, the causation, absolutely cannot be me, because I'm still quick. Now, per Lewis Hamilton's intonation and tone, it feels like this is a realization moment, a moment of enlightenment, that Lewis Hamilton realizes that 9 times out of 10, he's not going to out-qualify a Charles Leclerc nor a King George Russell of Kings Lynn, Norfolk, because he is 40 years old, and you do lose a tenth. You become more acutely aware of risk management et al. And that, ladies and gentlemen, concerns me. And in your Exhibit B, how about this race pace? Everybody says that Lewis Hamilton's race pace is glistening. That's always been his apex predator of a trait as an F1 peddler, a chariot of fire driver. However, of late season to date, I can recount at least a couple of times where over the course of the race, Sir Lewis Hamilton has been getting gapped to the tune of half a second a lap by Charles Leclerc, and that concerns me for the following reason. That was never Sir Lewis Hamilton. So again, I put forth for the following supposition. What has changed? If not the fact that Sir Lewis Hamilton is 40 years old and he's climbing a mountain up which is very difficult to navigate. Do you know what I mean? I don't know what the explains are. And I'm struggling with it. I will be honest with you. I don't want to write Sir Lewis Hamilton off, but with comments like that, the tone, it makes me happy to see and hear Sir Lewis Hamilton happy, but it leaves me disenchanted under the umbrella heading of Sir Lewis Hamilton winning an unprecedented 8th World Championship of the drivers' variety. Can we write him off? Absolutely flipping not. Can we say it's not the most likely outcome at this stage? Abso-flipping-lutely. Oh, and by the way, Christian Horner's come out and he said some things about Tsunoda-san, hasn't he? That if Tsunoda-san wants to stay as a Red Bull racing driver, then he's going to have to improve, particularly as Arvid Lindblad now is going great guns, and so too Isaac Hadjar is putting his best case forward. Rookie of the Year, no doubt, 1000%. Could we see a switch before the end of the year? Potentially. If past his prologue, Red Bull Racing never hesitate to pull the trigger on a cheeky driver switch. You only need to ask Daniel Kvyat, Alex Albon, Pierre Gasly, Daniel Ricciardo very recently, Liam Lawson most recently, and with Arvid Lindblad meant to be the next one, Helmut Marko's picked him out. Who's to say that Yuki Tsunoda will last till the end of the year? And by the way, let's talk about this quicker stuff, because Lando Norris did some laps in the dying embers of FP2, and I'm like, holy smoke. He did those laps on medium tyres, quicker to the tune of a second plus 1.3, if I recall correctly, than most of the rest of the bods on the grid who were on soft S tyres. What does that say? And then you see that Zach Brown was right, that FlexiWing TD018 hasn't affected McLaren. Oh, the humanity. They registered 0 upgrades. What are we doing here, chat? I don't understand this. Break this down for me, chat. I do not know the answers. Maybe Red Bull overnight will come back serious, as they have done so many times season to date. Maybe they do find that RB21 in its sweet spot, sufficient to where it can compete with the MCL39, particularly in the hands, of course, in the hands of Lando and Oscar. Maybe, but I am left concerned. Again, I can't look away nor disbelieve the evidence that my own eyes and ears are presenting to me. And that means that McLaren, the MCL39, is going to be quicker than quicker things today, both in FP3 and in quali proper, the paid session. But here's hoping. You guys know the mantra, the rules of the channel is that one will never back against Maximilian Verstappen unless one has a penchant for losing themselves money and all the shirt off of their back. Again, as aforementioned, Maximilian Verstappen, Enrico Balbo, Pierre Vacher, Christian Horner, we are depending on you as an F1 fan base who is invested in a competitive season here on in over the course of the next races through to Abu Dhabi. It's going to get techier than techie things, chat. Back in a couple of minutes for FP3. It will be chaos between now and then. The prosecution rests. No further questions, Your Honour.